From advertising to software as a service to data.
Across all of our programs and clients, we've seen a 55 to 65% open rate.
Getting brands authentically integrated into content performs better than TV advertising.
Typical lifespan of an article is about 24 to 36 hours.
If we're reaching out to the right person with the right message and a clear call to action, then it's just a matter of timing.
Welcome to the MarTech Podcast, and I Hear Everything production. In this podcast, you'll hear the stories of world-class marketers that use technology to drive business results and achieve career success. We'll unearth the real-world experiences of some of the brightest minds in the marketing and technology space so you can learn the tools, tips, and tricks they've learned along the way. Now here's the host of the MarTech Podcast, Benjamin Shapiro.
Welcome to the MarTech Podcast. I'm your host, Benjamin Shapiro, and today we're going to discuss navigating SaaS growth. Joining us is Rob Freedman, who is the head of growth at Zuper, which provides a comprehensive solution for effortlessly managing field sales and service. Zuper enables businesses to efficiently handle customer schedules, employees, and more in a secure manner. And in addition to providing us with our guest today, Zuper is also a sponsor of the MarTech Podcast. And today, Rob and I are going to discuss building a strong foundation for SaaS growth. All right, here's the first part of my conversation with Rob Freedman, the head of growth at Zuper. Rob, welcome back to the MarTech Podcast.
Hey, thanks, Ben. It's always a pleasure.
Always good to have one of our sponsors on. Thank you for your support of the show. And today or this week, I guess I should say, we're doing a little high-level thought about SaaS businesses. You are an operator that works in a SaaS business, but you have sales, marketing, customer success. Your company does field sales. So you sort of have this unique positioning of what goes into making these technology-driven businesses successful, not just purely from the marketing standpoint, from dollars, customers, happy people. So let's talk a little bit about the basics. What are some of the strategies that you can think of for companies that are starting to build a SaaS company? How do you build a strong foundation for SaaS growth?
It really starts off with understanding who you're even trying to sell to and getting a deep understanding and becoming customer obsessed. And that's like the core of what we do at Zuper, from building our product to how we market that product, how we sell it, how we create a onboarding experience, and then the ongoing customer success. It's everything, every conversation we have boils down to how will this impact our customer? And before you can do that, you need to understand, who are you building this for? Are you building it for yourself? And then you're hoping the market will adopt your great idea? Or are you going to the market, identifying pain points, deeply understanding how those pain points would ideally be solved, and then creating the solution and then letting them know you've now created? So taking that approach and understanding that target market and those buyer personas, you hear a lot about understanding your ICP, but it's more than just the top line demographics. It's getting deeper than that.
So I feel like there's two schools of thoughts here. And I, in this podcast, maybe daily, if not weekly, preach that the focus should be on your customers, understanding who they are, understanding their pain points, and finding solutions for them. And of course, you should do all your marketing research and figure out your ICP and your segmentation and build your persona cards and put them up on the wall and stare at them every day until they turn into customers. But in reality, often what happens is businesses start by building products and then trying to figure out who their customers are. And it's like, no, don't do that. Don't do that. That'll never work, except for, like the iPhone and basically anything Steve Jobs ever created, which there's the other school of thought, which is if you had a donkey and a horse and you combine them, you get a mule, and nobody's asking for that. I forgot exactly which animals you combine. But often if you're asking your customers what they want, they won't lead you down the right path. So if you're building a SaaS business, do you start by saying, hey, we're building a product, or we're figuring out the customers? How do you land there?
It's a little bit of a middle ground. What I enjoy watching us do is we'll ask customers who come into our ecosystem. We're trying to solve some field service operations pain point for them. And one of the benefits of Zuper is a flexible, customizable solution. So we're like, how do you want to do field service? How do you want to structure it? And they'll tell us. And that's where we come in as experts who've seen this replicated thousands of times across other customers. It's where we come in as experts who have a deep industry experience in many of our verticals. And then we put the consultant hat on and say, that's great. However, have you considered doing your workflow or structuring X or this way, solving the problem this way, charting that out, sometimes literally on a whiteboard, and whiteboard it out for them and show them, hey, this is your vision. This is how we've seen similar things done successfully that get to the same endpoint that you're looking for. And I think layering in that consulting to your sales process and how you're supporting your customers and thinking about your target market and your buyer personas is they're going to come to you with their vision. Like you said, hey, if you take just what the customer wants and build that, you'll never get anywhere. And I agree with that, but it gives you a starting point. Then you as the expert, as the consultants, get to then help them rethink and reimagine. And sometimes uncover things that they didn't even realize could be done. Sometimes they're limited, we're all limited by our own experiences. So the customer, that business owner or VP of operations, only knows what they've experienced.
What I'm hearing from you is find product market fit. And whether that is build a product and find a market or find a market and build a product, either way, you need to have that match between a group of customers and some sort of technology solution. That's the very obvious foundation for building a growable SaaS product. You got to have a product that matches some sort of a market. What are some of the other ways, once you have product market fit, that you're setting up foundation to be able to grow your business?
Well, in these conversations that we have with our customers and some of our technology partners as well, is understanding the value proposition. We imagine what the value is, but then through our conversations and this customer obsession, we often unlock other value props that the customers will share with us. So like, hey, we think our intelligent routing, for example, is great for helping dispatchers reduce manual tasks by automating the scheduling and routing for their field techs. What an unexpected value prop is, the more efficient routing is saving the company gas and wear and tear on their vehicle and reducing the number of miles that they're driving in a year, while still servicing the same, if not 10, 20, 30% more customers with the same field rep. And then we're like, oh, there you go. Value prop that we didn't even know that we can now use in our marketing. So listening to the customers and having them tell stories and listening for different triggers has been a very good source of customer stories that we can then use in our marketing.
All right, so you're identifying who the customers are, and we mentioned that there's kind of two ways to go about that process. And the second component of building a strong SaaS foundation is not just determining your value propositions, it's listening to cultivate and source value propositions. What are the different ways that you're using our product to make your life easier, better, faster, more efficient? What's the process for mining all of your customer feedback for those value props? Are you having marketers manually listen into sales calls, or using some sort of a technology stack, a Otter AI or something like that, to harvest data to find a value prop? What are the ways that you're getting to that data?
There's several ways. First, my colleague, Carmen Williams, who's our head of product marketing, she definitely takes a lot of time to get to know our customers. And it's like have coffee with them, sit down. We're at HubSpot Inbound conference and we took a couple out for dinner and just talked to them about their business. So some of it's quality time. We do leverage our friend AI to record, transcribe, and pick out keywords that we're looking for in sales calls and the demo calls. Onboarding. We also talk to our onboarding team and customer success team. What are they hearing on the front line? And working with them, our customer success team has been very successful in helping us get more G2 reviews and those software reviews. And then what came out of that conversation when they spoke to that customer, and there we uncover a lot of things. So some of it is manual. It is like putting in the time, quality time with them, which is great because especially earlier in this stage, your early adopters can be your greatest champions and help propel your business to scaling and growing. Or if they're ignored and you're not paying attention to them, you'll find a very tough road to growth.
As you're talking through the different ways to get data about your value props, what just intuitively I was thinking was, if you want to understand the value props, you have to go talk to your customers and ask them, how are you getting value out of this, and get that sort of deep knowledge. If you want to understand the language consumers use to describe the value they get, you can harvest that through artificial intelligence. What are the keywords? What are the most commonly ways to describe it? Like, that's all great for AI, but you can't ask the follow-up questions to AI. And so it is still very important to sit down with your customers to understand them. So you're figuring out who your customers are. You're figuring out what value you're getting. What's the last piece of the puzzle for building a strong foundation for SaaS growth?
That's building a strong customer experience for us. To use a well-used term, it's a white glove experience from beginning to end. It's ensuring that they always feel like they are the core focus of your business from every step of the way, from when we're prospecting to them and how we treat them when we're trying to get a meeting, to how we are when we do the handoff from sales to onboarding to success, and then ongoing relationships from there. It's building a positive experience with our product start to finish. And that retention, they become our greatest evangelists. They become the people who, when we're at a conference like HubSpot Inbound recently, some of the best prospects to come by our booth to speak with us were hand brought over by current customers. And those conversations were some of the most fruitful. You'll never be able to replicate that. No amount of email campaigns or cold LinkedIn messaging is going to replace that.
It's funny. It's always what I think Chris Walker calls the dark social that's the most effective. It's, I actually engaged with your content. I was referred by a customer. It's all the things that you virtually cannot track that end up being the biggest drivers for your business. So to summarize, when we're talking about building a strong foundation for SaaS, it's not necessarily your metrics evaluation. It's not necessarily having a K factor and virality. That's not really the foundation. What matters when you're thinking about building a foundation for a SaaS product is truly understanding who your customers are. What are their problems? What are their solutions? And building all of your products and your experience, not just the fundamental software, but the way that your company merges your marketing efforts with sales, the way that you go from sales into onboarding and be dealt with by customer success. That seamless nature of your product experience is really what drives that initial love, know, trust, that affinity, that recognition. And that's what we mean by SaaS foundation. So that wraps up this episode of the MarTech Podcast. Thanks for listening to my conversation with Rob Freedman, the head of growth at Zuper. Join us again tomorrow when Rob and I continue our conversation talking about scaling your marketing SaaS efforts. If you can't wait till our next episode and you'd like to learn more about Rob, you can find a link to his LinkedIn profile in our show notes. You can contact him on Twitter. His handle is Rob Freedman. That's ROBFREEDMAN. Or you can visit his company's website, which is zuper.co, ZUPER.co. Just one more link in our show notes I'd like to tell you about. If you didn't have a chance to take notes while you were listening to this podcast, head over to martechpod.com, where we have summaries of all of our episodes and contact information for our guests. You can also subscribe to our weekly newsletter, and you can even apply to be a guest speaker on the MarTech Podcast. Of course, you can always reach out on social media. Our handle is MarTechPod, MarTechPod, on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram, or you can contact me directly on LinkedIn. My handle is Ben J. Shap, BenJShap. And if you haven't subscribed yet and you want a daily stream of marketing and technology knowledge in your podcast feed, we're going to publish an episode every day this year. So hit the subscribe button in your podcast app, and we'll be back in your feed tomorrow morning. All right, that's it for today. But until next time, my advice is to just focus on keeping your customers happy.